This is the Surface Laptop 4, and it might not look all that new on the outside. In fact, it's not at all. But Microsoft just may have finally fixed what was always wrong with these laptops. This is Luke with Digital Trends, and I'm really excited to talk about both the performance and the battery life of the new Surface Laptop 4. But before we get there, make sure to like this video and leave a comment below letting me know what you think of this new Surface laptop. And if you are thinking about picking one up, make sure to use the link that we have in the description. Before I get to the good stuff though, I have to say up top, no, they didn't fix all the problems I have with the design of this laptop, which is now in its 4th iteration. I actually went back and watched my old review of the Surface Laptop 3, and a lot of my complaints there still stand. The bezels are pretty chunky, and the port selection is a little sparse with just a single USB-C port and USB-A port, headphone jack, and of course, the magnetic Surface Connect dock. And the speakers, they're still located under the keyboard, which isn't great, but they do have Dolby Atmos this time around, and I will say, after having heard so many horrible sets of laptop speakers in the past year or two, these are actually better than average. And a lot of the features that I loved about the design then are still here now. I mean, there's a lot to admire about the Surface Laptop 4, even in 2021 when it looks identical to what it did in 2017. It's still as remarkably thin as ever at just 0.58 inches, which still makes it one of the thinnest 15-inch laptops you can buy right now, even thinner than something like an LG Gram or the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It feels especially thin at the palm rest because it has that slight wedge shape. Now, the extreme size of this laptop is important because it places some limitations on what you can put inside. You can't have a 45-watt processor, and you definitely can't have a powerful, discrete graphics card. And for a lot of people, that makes the Surface Laptop 4 a bit too underpowered for their needs, especially for a laptop of this size. But that doesn't take anything away from what Microsoft accomplished with this design. The build quality is really solid, which is rare for a laptop this thin. The lid is rigid, the hinge opens with just one finger, and there isn't too much screen wobble either when using the touchscreen. It's all been balanced really well. Even the keyboard and touchpad feel so perfectly executed. It's a superbly manufactured device that's totally worthy of the Surface brand. I also like what this ultra-thin design does to emphasize the screen, because that's really what this laptop is all about. Surface Laptop 4 is one of the few 15-inch laptops that offer a 3:2 aspect ratio, and it is large and it is glorious to work on. I also like that Microsoft only sells one resolution per size. You don't have to bother with picking between a 1080p model that has good battery life but worse colors and a 4K model that's really expensive. Microsoft just takes the Apple approach in this case, selling just a single option. That is, in the 15-inch size, a 2256 by 1504 resolution that's both really sharp and has good color accuracy. I should note that the color saturation isn't quite up to par with some of the competitors, which again reinforces the target demographic for this laptop. It's not for creative professionals, that's for sure. The new components here are really what make the Surface Laptop 4 what it is. This is where Microsoft has made some big changes that really fix a lot of the problems I had with the Surface Laptop 3. Now it comes with a wide selection of both Intel and AMD processors across both sizes and in many different configurations. That's a problem solved. AMD's Ryzen processors debuted in the Surface Laptop 3, but they were a full year behind, resorting to the custom Ryzen 3000 chips they used, and performance was pretty disappointing, especially in the context of other large 15-inch laptops. It made it very hard to compete with rivals like the XPS 15 or the 16-inch MacBook Pro. The Surface Laptop 4 does two important things to fix this problem. First, like I said, it makes Ryzen processors available in both the 13.5-inch and the 15-inch sizes. The smaller size is limited to the 6-core Ryzen 5, while the 15-inch model exclusively offers the 8-core 16-thread Ryzen 7, which is what I tested in my review unit. Those extra cores add a lot of performance potential to the Surface Laptop 4, especially in the 15-inch model, which need all the power Microsoft and AMD can squeeze into it. It's also great for the base model 13.5 option, which now gets you a 6-core processor for just $1,000. And Microsoft made it even sweeter by bumping up the storage on that base model from 128 gigabytes to 256 gigabytes, and that makes it a lot easier to recommend. Though it should be noted that these chips are still a year behind using the Ryzen 4000 processors instead of the 5000 processors. It feels a little bit more forgivable this time around though, given the current drought in chip supplies, and more importantly, AMD made its biggest generational performance leap with Ryzen 4000, so the Surface Laptop 4 benefits from those gains. And that definitely proved true in my testing. Those 4 extra cores mean huge improvements to multi-core performance, and that was obvious in benchmarks like Geekbench and Cinebench. Really anything that only relies on the CPU, even video encoding and Handbrake, and all those things the Surface Laptop 4 is a pretty powerful laptop thanks to that Ryzen processor. It also performed well in the photo editing test in PC Mark X, which makes it a half-decent option for photographers, and that's not something I could have said about the previous model. Now, the thinness of the chassis and these older processors do hold back some of the performance here, and there are some things that the Surface Laptop 4 will just always struggle with because of its lack of power, such as video editing. For what it's worth, the M1 MacBook Air performs far better in Adobe Premiere, which is kind of pathetic because it's a far smaller laptop and it's way cheaper too. The graphics are a big part of the problem, and if Microsoft had used Ryzen 5000 chips instead, the integrated graphics would have performed a lot better, and you just can't get around that. But aside from performance, the one other big change here, and it's in the positive, is in battery life. It's a massive improvement. Microsoft claims you can get 17.5 hours with this particular configuration, and I didn't get anywhere close to that, but 13.5, which is what I got, is still really good. It's close to 4 hours more than the last version, which puts it in league with laptops like the LG Gram 16 and many other laptops with 1080p screens. This might be the first Surface product that actually exceeded my expectations in terms of battery life, which is a good sign from Microsoft. It should be noted that Microsoft says you can get a couple hours more with the 13.5-inch AMD model, while the Intel models will be around an hour less. Between the battery life increases and the significantly improved performance, I'd say Microsoft really turned this one around. I still think this 15-inch model is a bit of a niche laptop without discrete graphics, but now it's a bit more well-positioned to be a good work laptop, especially if you're working from home or something and you don't have access to a secondary screen. You'll really appreciate how much work you can see and get done without having to constantly scroll. The 13.5-inch model with the Ryzen 5 processor also seems like a great option, especially now that it comes with more storage. And overall, there's still room for improvement here. The chassis could definitely use an update, but the Surface Laptop 4 finally feels like the laptop it should have been last time around. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. There's a lot of exciting laptops coming out soon, and if you want me to review one of them, make sure to leave me a comment below and let me know which one you're excited about. And while you're here, hit like and make sure to subscribe for more videos from Digital Trends.